So today is Yud Zayin Tammuz, and many ask, why do we fast on Yud Zayin Tammuz, on the 17th of Tammuz? And B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to go today not only on the reasons why we fast, what caused us to commemorate the day with a fast, but we're going to look more deep into the mystical, Kabbalistic reason why we commemorate this day. What is this day? And in essence, we're looking at this day as a very negative day. Mourning, and we fast, and bad things happen in the past. But if you look, like in everything, at the deep meaning of it, you actually find a very positive thing. And one of the things that happened on Yud Zayin Tammuz, that's how it really started. On Yud Zayin Tammuz, Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain with the tablets, with the first set of tablets, and as he coming down, he sees a golden calf and a party. And that's when it all started, and that's when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the tablets. There are different opinions. One opinion say that he actually got upset and broke them, which that doesn't sound so like Moshe Rabbeinu. One opinion says the tablets were very big, and some say that the holiness that's in the tablets left the tablets, and it was too heavy for him to carry, and they fell down and broke. That while there was the Shekhinah, the godliness in the tablets, then it was easy for him to carry them. But the second that the holiness left the tablets, then they fell down and broke. So that's when it all started. And Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the mountains, the tablets broke, seeing the people celebrating and dancing around the golden calf. And since then, that day became a bad day to our nation. And of course there's a question, 3,339 years ago passed, and we still have to fast because something that happened so long ago. I'm sure Hashem already has forgiven us, let's hope at least. And even if not, like what, it's like a couple having a fight, and after a week you're still not talking to me? Get over it. So we're not really fasting because Hashem got upset. Hashem doesn't get upset. We're actually fasting for ourselves because up until that day, everything that we learned in regards to Torah got absorbed right away. Everything that we learned, we remembered right away. There wasn't a problem with remembering the material. From that day, because the tablets broke, and the tablets are the source of our life, needless to say that they are the source of the Torah and the wisdom, then we lost the ability to remember what we learned. We lost the ability to have a good grasp on the Torah. And we have to learn it over and over and over. And everything that I learn, I don't remember. Most people, they come to a class, they leave the class, and 90% they don't remember. And even if they learn something so many times, they don't remember it. Just think where we would hold if we would still be holding that ability of reading a book and memorizing it perfect. After 80 years in this world, we would be all geniuses in the Torah. So really, we are commemorating, and we're fasting because we lost something. The tablets that were the power of the Torah, they broke. So we're lacking a connection to the Torah, and therefore we fast for that. We mourn the fact that we lost the ability, because now it takes me years to remember something in the Torah. So there are much more things than that. This is just on the surface why we fast. We're not necessarily fasting from the destructions of the walls, and we are. But in a deeper meaning, we're fasting for ourselves. Because a lot of people say, okay, the walls of Yerushalayim were broken 2,000 years ago. What does that got to do with me? So I'm actually fasting for myself. And our sages teach that a person that fasts on these holidays, it's not only on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, but especially on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, regains the ability to remember the Torah. So, first of all, it's never too late. I know a lot of people saying, oh, now you're telling me that after 60 years? But it says that whoever fasts on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz is regaining the power to absorb the Torah, and everything that they learn actually stays there and not going to waste. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, that should be our thought, that I'm sad for the fact that I lost the power of learning the Torah, and now I'm regaining it. Now, we know that there are 5 things that happen on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz that causes us to fast. This is found in the Tractate of Ta'anit, in page 53. And it says 5 things happen on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, and that's why we fast till today. The first thing that happened is, like we mentioned, is the breaking of the tablets. The golden calf, the breaking of the tablets. And that was the first thing that happened, and this happened at the time of the Torah, at the time of when the Jews were in Mitzrayim. The second thing that happened is at the time of the Second Temple, started the siege on Yerushalayim. And worse than that, that was the day, we spoke about it on Sunday, that was the day that the sacrifice that is called Korban Tamid stopped. And if you remember the story that I told you on Sunday, that they were sacrificing this Korban, the sacrifice, twice a day. And for 3.5 years, the walls of Yerushalayim were surrounded by the Roman army. And they could not understand how they can't break the walls. They just could not understand that. And when they grabbed an old man and asked him, how come we can't break their walls? What's going on here? We have this massive army. They build these huge steel elephants banging into the walls. This old man said, you cannot break the walls because they have a secret power, a spiritual power that is enabling them to be strong and for you not to break the walls. And when they asked, what is this power? And he answered, they sacrifice twice a day the Korban Tamid. And they're like, what are they sacrificing? He answered, they're sacrificing a sheep. So they're like, they're under siege. How do they have sheep? So at the time, even though Yerushalayim was under siege, but they still had a lot of money. The story says that every day the priests, the Kohanim, would stand on the wall. They had a special shaft that they would take down a portion of gold coins, of money, and in return, whoever was down there gave them 2 sheep, and they would pull up the sheep, and that's how they sacrificed the Korban Tamid. When they found that out, then they were waiting down there, and on the way up, instead of sending 2 sheep, they sent 2 pigs. And one of the pigs didn't even reach to the top of the shaft, and he just touched the walls of the Yerushalayim, and that was the beginning of the destruction. So this is the day, the second thing that happened, that this is the day that the Korban Tamid, the sacrifice, stopped. The third thing that happened, of course, is the breaking of the walls. Since they stopped Korban Tamid, then also they broke the walls. And that happened in the Second Temple. The third thing that happened is Apostomos burnt the Sefer Torah. And there is an argument about the period, when it really happened. Some say it happened in the Second Temple, some say it happened in the First Temple. Some say that Apostomos is actually Antiochus, but nevertheless, the wicked Apostomos burned the Torah. And the fifth thing that happened is that a tzelem, a statue, an idol, was placed in the Heichal, in the dome where the Beit HaMikdash is. And again, there's the same argument, who did that and what was the statue? But again, that was the fifth thing that caused, that happened on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. Now, in essence, we're fasting something bad that happened to us many years ago, and we still need to commemorate the destruction of the tablets, the destruction of the walls, the destruction of the temple. So there's no doubt and no question why we need to mourn. But we do find in the book of Zechariah, and this is found in chapter 26, a verse, a very interesting verse. And the verse says, Ko Amar Hashem Tzvaot, that the Hashem said that the 4th and 5th fast and the 7th and the 10th fast will become a day of joy. And not only that it become a day of joy, the verse says, Yeh lebet Yehuda lesason velesimcha ulemoadim tovim. These 4 fasts, he says the 4th and the 5th, the 7th and the 10th, talking about the 4 fasts that we have, that these days are going to turn into a joyous day, into a celebration. So we know, based on the prophecy of Zechariah, of Zachary, that these days when Mashiach is going to come very soon are going to become a celebration day. That's why I said that in a very external way it's a very negative day, but in a very deep and inner way this is a very positive and good day, that when Mashiach is going to come it's actually going to turn into a celebration. Now, Bezrat Hashem, I want to talk about today why does the prophet say 2,000 years ago that this is going to be a good day. I want to today more talk about the more inner meaning why we fast and what can be achieved. But we have to understand that it all originates when we go out of Mitzrayim. We leave Mitzrayim, we leave slavery, and our entire existence and our entire reality changed, because we were slaves for 210 years, and the mentality of a slave is that you have no freedom. You have no control over anything that you do. And the slave, it's himself. If a slave is born into slavery, he doesn't know anything else but his reality. And we were slaves. Now, of course, we were slaves physically, but this is also talking about the slavery that we are still stuck in, but we're stuck then in our mental slavery, in our spiritual slavery. That up until today, we're stuck in some type of a slavery. That's why our sages say that every generation, we have to see ourselves like as if we came out of Mitzrayim. And the Baal HaTanya explains that every day we have to look at ourselves like as if we left Mitzrayim. Meaning that every day I'm battling my limitations. I'm slave to something. I'm either slave to my phone, slave to my car, slave to my job. We constantly have these things in my life that I'm a slave to. I can be a slave to the little box of cigarettes, and I can be a slave to a little screen. But the reality is that we still carry with us this mentality of a slave. And the teachings of Kabbalah explains that everything that we do in the physical world, especially when we do holidays and commemorate things from the past, everything that we do actually signifies something that is a piece and a part of our soul. Which means that the 5 things that happen on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, they actually going on in the spiritual level in my soul. Something that I have to look into and something that I have to work on and fix. Now, going back to Mitzrayim, we left Mitzrayim, we left slavery, and Mitzrayim basically signifies a very bad attribute that we have that is called Ge'ava. It's called pride. And we're all failing in many of the attributes, whether it's anger, jealousy, hate, and many other of the bad attributes, we're failing because it all originates from the level of pride, of gava. Many times we spoke about it, especially in the course that we had about the tikkun midot, that you have good attributes, good character traits, and bad character traits. In the good side, the highest character trait will be midat ha'anava, being humble, and that will start birthing all the rest of the good character traits. And on the negative side, the highest negative character trait will be gava, will be pride. And a person that has midat ha'gava, and we all have it, there's no such a thing that somebody doesn't have it, that will start birthing other character traits. The first generation, what it would birth would be sadness and anger. A person who has pride, if you say something to that person, he would either get angry or either get sad, affected by what you say. Why? Because you hurt their pride. So we have a lot of bad character traits, but they all funnel up to the character trait that is called geava, midat ha'geava. And Mitzrayim was the concept of breaking the midat ha'geava and going out of it. And this is the idol worship that they were stuck in. They not necessarily were slaves to bricks and building pyramids. We spoke about it many times. The Jews didn't even build the pyramids. The Talmud says that the Jews, they weren't Jews there, the sons of Israel, Bnei Israel, they built 2 cities that are called Pitom and Ramses. They're not even close to the pyramids. And besides, the Talmud says that everything that they built sunk into the ground. They built something and right away it went into the ground. There's no remaining of anything that they built. But we picture them as slaves in Egypt carrying bricks, but really they're in a very harsh mental and emotional state of mind of slavery. And this is compared to our generation. That's why many say that the same slavery that we had in Egypt 3,340 years ago and more, that's the slavery that we have now, just that now we're more modern. So we're slaves to, like I said before, to an iPhone, to the screen, to food, to cigarettes, to drugs, to alcohol. We're slaves to everything. We don't even notice how much things we're slaves to. We just don't see it. I'm not a slave to the phone. But if I pick it up every 3 seconds because it rings, then I'm a slave to it. This is slavery, meaning that I can't, that I'm controlled by something. And a lot of people say, no, I'm not controlled by the phone. I just check my emails, and I just check my text messages, and I'm just playing, and I'm just glued to it 19 hours a day, but I'm not a slave to it. And the test is, try to go a week without it, and we'll see if you're a slave to it or not. So, and this is one form of slavery out of many. Some people it's more physical, slavery to alcohol and drugs, and can be cigarettes, can be food, can be many other things. In our generation there is another form of slavery, it's called Facebook, that you go in it and you can't get out of it. And you're just stuck on it. And it's repeating itself, the same junk over and over, and people find themselves 3-4 hours on Facebook. Just, one time my daughter looked at the screen while we were looking something on Facebook, and we were going down and down and down. She was like, Facebook never ends. You go with your finger like that. Yeah, you go with your finger like that, and it goes down and down and down. She was like, look, Facebook never ends. I said, yeah, this is like Gehenom. It's like a pit that is called Sheol, the pit that never ends. So we are also slaves, we just don't agree with it. That's because the attribute, the character trait of Geava doesn't allow me to admit, yes, I am a slave to it, I don't know how to get out of it. So when they left Mitzrayim, they had to break the idol worship that was called Avodah Zarah. And they weren't necessarily bowing to idols in Mitzrayim, but they could not go out of the mentality of a slave, and that's called pride, Geava. Now, a big question that arises is, why do we commemorate this day? And of course the answer is because many bad things happen, and the argument is, yeah, but many bad things happen to our nation, not on Yud Zayin Tammuz. And I mean, I can make like a whole list, and probably almost every day in history something bad happened to our nation. Why aren't our fasting then? So why is it all compiled into the day of Yud Zayin B'Tammuz? I mean, probably if you look into history, we can find out another 50 dates that something bad happened, something big that happened. So the point is that we are striving already for thousands of years to reach to a level, and this level is called Geula, it's called redemption. But another way of defining this level that we're trying to get, or one should say our purpose, is to get to the level that we're serving Hashem in completion. This is the tachlit, the purpose. And the purpose is to reach to a level that I serve Hashem in completion. Right now we're not even close to serving Hashem in completion. First of all, we don't have a Bet HaMikdash, we don't have the temple. 2/3 of the mitzvot we can't even do. We're maybe operating on a little bit less than 1/3 of the mitzvot, less than 200 mitzvot we're able to do. But more than that, we're in such a low level and such a deep level of impurity that we don't really serve Hashem how we're supposed to. And this is called serving Hashem with love. We don't serve Hashem really with love. I don't know much people that are very happy to fast today. They're actually very sad, and most people are finding any loophole possible not to fast today. So the reason why our sages chose the 4 fasts that we have is because on those days of the year we are able to align my neshama, or more to say, to reach to a level of being balanced. Because the reason why we're not serving Hashem in completion, because we're not balanced. We spoke about it many times in classes, that our goal is to reach to a point that I'm very balanced. Most people, they're not balanced. I mean, we spoke last week a couple classes about why a lot of people have anxieties and fear and worries about many things that don't need to. Mainly because the person is not balanced. And I'm not saying it in a negative way. It's not that if you're not balanced, it means you're a bad person. It just means that the system is not balanced. And when a person is not balanced, he's either leaning too much to the right or too much to the left. And the entire teachings of Kabbalah, the reason why we learn Kabbalah is not to feel that we're smart and to show off that we know fancy stuff. The teachings of Kabbalah and the purpose to learn is to know how to bring myself to the right balance. If I have a problem with anger, then I need to know how to balance it. Because if Hashem created anger, He created it to use it for something positive. It's to be angry at the Yetzer Hara that's trying to tell me to do a sin. But if it's pushed to the wrong way and it's not balanced, then the anger is going out on something that is irrelevant. Instead of taking that anger, and when the Yetzer Hara comes and tells me, sleep in, or do this sin, or don't do that, I should be angry, take this anger, and gore at the Yetzer Hara and shut him up. But when I'm totally out of balance, then the anger will go over something stupid or irrelevant. Same thing with sadness and jealousy and anything else. You know, where do you learn that jealousy is a good thing? In this week's parasha. Pinchas was jealous for Hashem. He saw an immoral act and nobody was doing anything, and he was jealous for the honor of Hashem, and he went cuckoo, basically, and he murdered 2 people. This is the first justified murder in the Torah. And that's called jealousy. Kina'at Hashem. He was jealous to Hashem. So almost any attribute you're going to look at, you can point to the positive thing in the attribute. The problem is that if I'm not balanced, this attribute will be pointed into something negative. So,
did he murder or did he execute?
I don't know. The sage, the way it's explained is that he murdered them, but one can argue and say he executed, and one can say that he did self-defense because he caused the entire nation to see that this is a immoral act, and the result of an immoral act in public will result death. So there's many ways of looking at it. I'm not the judge to say, to say if it was the right thing to do or not. So taking a person's life, it can be defined as murder or killing, whatever. We're not going to get into the term. But many say, you know, it wasn't his place. Moshe Rabbeinu was there. Moshe Rabbeinu could give an order. Aaron HaKohen was there. The Sanhedrin was there. Everybody was there. Everybody saw. That's why a lot of people say maybe what he did was wrong. Moshe Rabbeinu was there. If Moshe Rabbeinu didn't give an order, maybe he wasn't wrong. Of course. So the point is, I don't want to talk about Pinchas. I just wanted to give an explanation where jealousy can come in a positive way, because all the character traits that are created, A, can be used for something positive, B, it's for us to refine. Anything that Hashem created in the world can be looked upon as something positive. Even a nuclear bomb. The nuclear power, the positive part of it, that you can make power. You know, now one of the American aircraft carriers are parked in front of Haifa. And they went there, Netanyahu went there, they made him a tour and they filmed it and they show him the aircraft carrier. And I think it was the captain of the ship that tells him, we never fuel this ship, we're running on nuclear power. For 20, 30, 40 years, I didn't pay attention to the video. I don't know how long this aircraft carrier is on the water. But he says, since the day it was on the water, we never fuel it. We're running on nuclear power. Now, not that I'm saying that an aircraft carrier is presenting something positive, but you can take nuclear power and stop destroying the world by drilling into the ground and taking oil and whatever you need to do to create power. So anything that Hashem created can be utilized to something positive. So on these 4 days of the fasts, especially Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, it's an auspicious day to reach to a point that I know and I can balance my system, because I suffer from imbalance in any way you're going to look at it. And if you are able to look in the mirror and say, I'm fine, I don't need to balance everything, I'm doing great, then it means that the character trait of ge'ava, of pride, is very dominating. Because one should look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm very good here, but I have a whole list of things that I have to work on. And this is basically admitting that I have a problem, an imbalance in my system. I might be very good in these acts, but I have still a problem with sadness or depression or anger or jealousy or being stingy or being judging people the wrong way or lazy or there's a whole list of bad character traits. We have to know to be humble, to be able to point, yes, I am lazy. Yes, I'm judging people wrongfully. Yes, I don't want to do this and that. So
That's interesting, because all the character traits are because it's the lack of balance. Because all those character traits are good if they're balanced. Even laziness is good if it's balanced.
100%. If you reach to 100% balance, then the bad character traits will stay the same character traits, but pointed to a positive thing. 100%. That's the whole point. That we are suffering from imbalance, spiritual and emotional imbalance. And that's why where the teachings of Kabbalah come in so dominate. People think, oh, don't learn Kabbalah, you're going to go crazy, it's just for special people. Yes, but the teachings of Kabbalah, which, when I'm saying Kabbalah, it's including the Zohar, it's including Chassidut, it's including many topics in the mystical teachings, but the mystical teachings of the Torah comes to teach me how to reach to the depth of my soul, to be able to start refining it. And therefore it teaches me that my soul, the lowest level of the soul that is called nefesh, it needs to be balanced. And if it's not balanced, I'm going to suffer from many different issues. And it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It's very important. A lot of people say or think that I'm attacking them by saying you're a bad person. You're not a bad person. I also have a long list of character traits that need to be worked on. And don't think you can work on it in one day. It sometimes can take you 50 years to work on one character trait. So you can be a grouch your entire life, and when you're 60s, suddenly you start calming down. And people say, oh, because he's older. Not because he's older, because he's been working on it for 40 years. So needless to say that we have to work on our character traits, and the more you balance them out, then you become much more calm, much more settled. You think 50 times before you act. And it's not necessarily your age, it's the fact that you're working on the character trait, and the goal is to reach this completion. Now, since I don't want to talk about Tikkun HaMidot, I want to talk about the 17th of Tammuz. We presented a question, why Dafka today when many other bad things happen in many other days in the calendar? So the day of Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, the 17th of Tammuz, is an auspicious day. There are 4 days of the year where I can easily get to this balance. If you've been following us, I know some of you are with us from the day we opened. So from the day we opened Be'er Miriam, a whole month we learned about Chanukah. A whole month we learned about Purim. A whole month we learned about Pesach. 3 weeks we learned about Shavuot. We learned about all these holidays. And if you remember, after Shavuot, when we finished the holiday, I told you, now I don't know what we're going to learn about, because next holiday we're only going to learn in 5 months. So if you remember, every month that we learned about one of the holidays, we touched the fact of what can be achieved on the day of that holiday. What can be achieved on Pesach, what can be achieved on Purim. And I always explain that this is an auspicious time to reach something that if I prepare for it the right way, or if I concentrate or meditate on it on the day itself, it's an auspicious time to reach some type of a level. And I always compare it to the American holidays, that everything in America, every time in America, in the United States, there's a holiday, there's a sale. You have 4th of July, we just had 4th of July. I'm leaving now next week to America. So everybody, when they find out that I'm leaving, everybody shops, so I have to come back with 4 suitcases. So I told my mom, I'm leaving to America in a few weeks. If you need anything, then you should order it already. So she's like, oh, it's 4th of July. There's going to be a lot of sales. I'm going to wait for 4th of July to do all my shopping. So every holiday, there's a Memorial Day, Veterans Day, all these holidays, there's always a sale. And I lived in America 18 years. President's Day, St. Patrick Day, there's a lot of days. All the days there's a sale. And when I lived in America 18 years, and I could not understand this phenomena. You have a holiday, there's a sale. So why? Because it's an auspicious time, and we want you to spend money. Same.
You have a day off.
Yeah, you have a day off. You barbecue. You with your family. It's a good day. It's an auspicious day to pull out the credit cards. So the same way Hashem also has these sales, these auspicious days. Yud Zayin B'Tammuz is the auspicious day to reach this balance. Now, I don't know if we're going to have time, but I want to go through the 5 things that we're commemorating on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, and what is the spiritual explanation, the deep spiritual explanation, why is it an auspicious day to fix it. Now, the first thing that happened that we mentioned, it's not the first thing that happened, but we mentioned that the walls were broken. They didn't fall down, the walls. They just were able to break the walls. This is called Pritzat HaChomot, breaking of the walls. In physical level, in the historical act, Yerushalayim was surrounded with walls. That's the day they were able to break into the walls, to make holes in the walls. Now, it doesn't mean that they conquered the city right away. It took them 3 weeks to be able to start going in. But when the first crack happens, that's it. That's the end of the story. Go now to a dam. It's holding trillions of cubes of water. All it takes is one crack, and that's it. It's just a matter of time before the whole dam will break. We have spiritual and emotional walls around our system. And these walls are the framework of our service to God. And seemingly, it seems like the gvul, the barrier, the wall, seemingly it looks like something very negative. If you look at the Torah, we have a lot of don'ts. A lot of don't do this, don't do that. And there is a verse that it says, Sur mera ve'aseh tov, bakesh shalom ve'radfeo. This is a verse in the book of Tehillim. And it says, first, Sur mera, first the don't. Sur mera means move away from evil. Then it says, aseh tov, then do good. Then it says, bakesh shalom, ask for peace, ve'radfeo, and pursue it. But it's basically saying, first we have to concentrate on the negative precepts. Then we do the positive precepts. The positive mitzvot. Now seemingly when you look at the Torah, all these negative things that we're not supposed to do, all the don'ts, seems like a very negative thing. Don't eat this, don't say that, don't drive there, don't do this. It seems like it's putting a limitation on me. And a lot of people don't like the limitations. They resent the limitations because they feel in a very superficial way that it's putting me into a limit. I don't want to be limited. I want to be free. But in essence, these barriers, in Hebrew it's called gvul. Gvul is like a border. The Kabbalistic term to it is called a tzimtzum, a contraction. A siluk ha'or, the removement of the light. The world was created with a tzimtzum. Because in the beginning there was too much light. Nothing would be able to sustain that light. Hashem had to contract the light. He had to remove the light, to cover the light. How did he do it? With the attribute that is called gvura, severity. So in essence it seems like a very negative thing, but it really is a very positive thing. Without the tzimtzum, without the attribute of gvura, nothing will sustain. Too much of everything will create a disaster. So this concept of a wall, of a barrier, of a gvul, of a separation, something that stops me, on the very external way seems like a negative thing, but in a very deep and internal way, it's a very positive thing that I can actually not live without. I cannot live without restrictions. If I don't have restrictions, then you know what it creates? It creates chaos. If we would look now at our society, if there wouldn't be restrictions, if there wouldn't be rules, if there wouldn't be laws, there would be chaos. People would be killing each other. So, in essence, on a very external way, when somebody looks at these restrictions, at these walls, let's call it, it looks like a very annoying thing. But really, go deep down inside of it, it actually represents the right way how things need to be done. Everything has to have rules and regulations. If you don't have rules, you're going to have a problem. And when you don't put rules, when you don't put a guideline, you are bound to have chaos. Now the real, and of course not freedom. The real freedom is when you define things. The easiest way to explain the concept of the wall is called the method of a traffic light. A traffic light has a red light that stops you, and it has a green light that lets you go. Now, what is the main part of the traffic light, the green or the red?
Yellow.
The yellow. But if you're looking at the traffic light, one would say the green is, give me the green light to operate, to go. But really the most important part of the traffic light is the red. It stops you. Stops you from going into the intersection and running into an accident. So if you're looking what is the most important part of the traffic light, is not the green light that just lets you go and do whatever you want. Or when you drive and you see from far away the green light in the intersection, you say, I can make it, I can make it. And then comes of course the yellow light that tells you, no, you can't. And if you're foolish, then you go into the intersection by thinking you can. But the method of the traffic light is that the red light, what stops me is actually the most important thing. It stops me from going into danger. It restricts me. It puts me in my place and says, no, you can't go right now. And if I'm a hoodlum, If that's how you say it, then I don't listen to the red light, and I just say, I don't care about the rules. I go by my rules. Then I put myself in danger, and I put somebody else in danger. And if I'm lucky, then I only get a ticket. And if I'm less lucky, I go into a car accident. So this is the concept of the walls. And we have walls around us. And if I don't put walls around me in my life, then my life is chaos. And if you find that your life is chaos, meaning that you have no control over your life, one day you're happy, one day you're sad, one day you're in this mood, one day you're in that mood, one day you're here, one day you're there, your life is chaos. There's no izun, there's no balance. Then it means that your internal walls are broken. And you don't have structure, and you don't have the barriers that wall you in, that you have your order. Now again, this is not to put somebody down, or chas v'shalom to mock somebody, it's to make an observation. What do I need to meditate on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz? What do I need to meditate on? And not only meditate on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, is also what I need to fix and how to fix it. And this is the day that I have a 90% sale. So if I find that my life is not walled by rules, I don't follow my own rules. It can be the rules of the country, it can be the rules of the Torah, it can be the rules of my home. I need to make myself rules. I have a rule. I want to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning because I need to pray and work or whatever it is. If I don't follow my own rules, what good is it going to be? Yesterday we have a custom in our house, in my household, that every week, every 2 weeks, every month we have a family meeting, and I gather the family. My wife and me sits in front of the kids all sit in front of us, staring at us like, and sometimes it's an emergency meeting, sometimes it's just a good family meeting. In the family meeting, everybody gets a turn to talk, say what's bothering them, what they like, what they don't like. It's the time that they can say what they like and don't like about everybody in the family household. They tell me what they like that I do, what they don't like that I do. It's a meeting that we lay everything on the ground. They talk to each other. They say, I don't like when you play with my toy. The other one says, I don't like when you go into my room. But it's done in a very nice and civilized way, and then we come to conclusions. And we write an amendment. So we have house rules. And if I see that the walls of the house are shaking, then I will call for a meeting. We had a meeting like that yesterday. And me as the chairman of the board of another household, then I say, listen, I see here a crack in the wall, and I don't like what I'm seeing, and we make a meeting. So I'm not telling you that to amuse you, I'm just telling you how I'm running my house, is that there has to be structure, and there's rules, and when there's a little bit of chaos, when the walls are being broken, then it brings chaos. And in Hebrew, it's said very easily, it says choser izun, lack of imbalance. I don't know if that's a way to use it in English, but in Hebrew it's a known term. It says choser izun. I'm lacking balance. I don't have balance. And every now and then you have to get into balance. You have back pains, you go to a chiropractor. You every now and then you need to get balanced, to get aligned. And Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, that's when I'm aligning all these things. So the first thing I need to look on the fact is whether my walls are standing firm or they're not. And the walls are the red lights in my life. In the spiritual level, in the emotional level, in the personal level, in all aspects of life. And if chas v'shalom, I can recognize that my life is in chaos. Life is in chaos doesn't mean that I have struggles with a relationship or with my livelihood. That's a normal thing. That's going to happen throughout my life. Chaos is that every day is a different day. And it is good to have variation in my days, but if one day I'm moody, one day I'm happy, one day I'm sad, one day I'm upset, one day I'm focused, one day I'm not focused, that means that my life is not balanced well. Life needs to be very balanced. Therefore, if I make this analogy today and I find it that my walls are broken, then I have to mourn the breaking of my own walls. So I fast to remember, wait a minute, my walls are broken. I made rules, have rules in my life. And the rules can be also in my relationships. I have rules with my relationships with my wife. Because when I learned to know her, in the beginning I didn't know her, she was a stranger. I was 29 years old, I didn't know her. It took us a couple years to know each other. As we built the relationship, rules were established. So I learned that she doesn't like A, B, and C. So I had to make rules. Don't do it next to your wife, or don't do it to her, she doesn't like it. So I had to create new rules. Maybe a different person doesn't mind. Some people say, I don't mind if you make noise while I sleep. Some people say, yeah, it bothers me when you make noise while I sleep. Some people say, it bothers me when you chew with your mouth open. Another person says, you can chew however you want. I can care less. So as you build a relationship, you make your own rules because you care. At least I hope you care. That's how you build a relationship, by seeing other person's needs and you're saying, okay, I'm going to make myself rules. Because that individual, whether it's my wife, my husband, my kids, my boss, they don't like when I do this and that, so I'm not going to do it. So the rules are not necessarily the rules that the Torah gives me. It's the rules that I make to myself, the rules that I make in my household, the rules that I make in my business. So I have to observe to see if the walls of my body and my soul are broken. And if my barriers, if my walls were broken into, then I have to mourn. I have to fast and say, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. The enemy is penetrating now. Now, the first thing that happened that we mentioned, this is the second thing that we have to look upon and to meditate on, is the fact that the tablets were broken. If you look at the poem that we read on Yud Zayin Tammuz, it says, Nishtabru haluchot. It's a very not common way of saying the word breaking. Nishtabru. Usually you would say in Hebrew, nishberu. Or in one of these ways, it says nishtabru. If you know Hebrew, you know that this is not a way to say breaking. But this represents the breaking of the tablets. Now, what is a tablet? A tablet is a piece of stone that are letters carved in it. There's a story that the previous Lubavitch Rebbe came to America in the 40s. When he came to America, he started establishing yeshivot and synagogues and a Jewish life. And he had a few emissaries, and he sent one of the emissaries on a trip to do all sorts of things. Part of the trip was to also collect funds. And he told him, when you reach to this city, look up this individual, and I need you to meet with him and do A, B, and C. And the emissary that went to the city, he was under the impression that he's going to meet a God-fearing Jew that is supposed to help him to do whatever he needs to do. And there he meets a secular Jew that seemed like he has no connection to the Torah and the mitzvot. Anyways, long story short, he met him, he told him, this is the message I have from the rabbi, and I need you to help me with this, help me with that, and he helped him with whatever he needed to do. And as he's about to say goodbye, the person takes out a checkbook and starts writing a check. And he tells him, no, I didn't come to ask for money. I came to do what I'm supposed to do. So the person told him, no, it's okay, I want to contribute. But he asked him, what is that you came to do, really? And the emissary told him, you know that once a year, once every 3 years, once every 7 years, we check the mezuzot on our doors. We check the tefillin, we check the Torah scroll. And the reason why we check it, because sometimes the letters, they fade out. Happens. And the scribe opens the parchment, can be a mezuzah, can be tefillin, and he looks for the letters that are faded and he fills them in. And he says, every Jew is like a letter in the Sefer Torah, and I'm like the scribe that came to see that the letters are not faded and just to fill them in. Okay, so he says, that's what I came to do. Good. When he came back and he went into the meeting, into his Rebbe, the Rebbe tells him, no, did you do everything that I told him? Yes, I did everything. And he gives him a report. And he told him that he mentioned this whole story. He was proud of the chidush, the new idea that he had with the parchment, and he told him. So the Rebbe told him, you are a little bit wrong, because the letters that are written on the parchment are a separate entity from the parchment, because the ink can be removed. And a Jew is not a separate entity from Hashem. It's part of Hashem. He's engraved in it. It's like a letter engraved on a tablet. You can't separate it. It can't fade out. It cannot be a separate thing from the Torah and Hashem. It's one thing. Therefore, your example is nice, but is not 100% right. The concept of a tablet and why the Ten Commandments was given on a tablet is to signify that the letter is part of the tablet. You can't take it out. After the tablets were given, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote a Torah scroll. We mentioned that on Shabbat, that Moshe Rabbeinu would sit with the scroll and the feather, Hashem would read out, and Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Torah. We mentioned it on Shabbat because I told you that Moshe Rabbeinu had a veil on his face. For 40 years he was wearing a veil because his face was shining. And it was shining because Hashem took the extra ink from the letter Aleph in the word Vaikra and he smeared it on his face. So Moshe Rabbeinu also wrote a Torah. But the Ten Commandments that were given on the tablets was to signify that the Torah and the Jew and Hashem is one thing. You can't separate it. It's not something that you can erase. Now, when these tablets were broken, something spiritually broke inside of us. Now, what are these tablets in our life? A tablet is where I carve my beliefs. I operate in my life because I have values. I have values, I have beliefs, I have things that I stand for. And I get it from my parents, I get it when I grow. And when somebody is shaking my values, that doesn't go so well with my existence. And we all have these tablets that are in us. And I grew up, I saw things in my household. My parents educated me to certain values. And if now something will come to change it or try to reshape it, it's gonna damage me. You see it in marriage, that I come with my values, my wife comes with her values, and now we're meeting them together. And not always it's the same. And then comes type of disagreement. I go by this and you go by that. But I have values, I have beliefs, I have my spiritual and emotional backbone, and I operate by that. You know, my father might not be a rabbi with a long beard, but he has a lot of character traits that I wish that 99% of the world that's lacking it would have them. And one of the things is that my father is so honest. He never lied or cheated. He's the most honest businessman I ever saw. And many other things. But one thing that I grew up in my childhood, my father was a businessman. He was always busy. I barely saw him. I mean, the positive side was that we grew up with a lot of money. I grew up very comfortable, but I didn't have a father. He was always working. But the little that I saw, the values that I grew up with is how important is the honesty is. He was always showing us the value and the importance of be honest, don't lie. and don't cheat in business. And it's very easy to cheat in business. It's very easy to take advantage of people. It's very easy to go behind the back of the government and pay taxes. But one of the many values that I got is this honesty, and how important it is. Very little people are honest, especially when it comes to business. This is a value, a pillar that I got educated and I got it in my household, that up until today, it's one of my pillars. And when it will come to shake this pillar, my value, and it did happen in many times in my life. I say it not proudly, but I say that when I made a lot of money in my past, it's because I wasn't honest. And it's very tempting. Doesn't mean that I always applied it. It's very tempting to be very dishonest in business, because you make a lot of money. But at some point, deep down inside, it bothered me, because it broke my values. It broke what I grew up. I grew up by being, no, you have to be honest. And it took me a couple of years to really understand, wait a minute, what I'm doing is not the right way. I had to do tshuva on that. Now, one of the many values that I got in my household from my mom is Australian, a very nice and polite, soft-spoken woman. So that's one of the values of being nice and soft-speaking and polite and caring. And not that I'm saying that other nations are not, but the Australians are very nice and soft-spoken. Now, that was not me for many years. I was a very loud speaker. Loud meaning that I would use false language, insult people, put people down, and it was not the values that I got in my home. So at a period in my life that I wasn't really me, like this boy that goes off the path and becomes wild, but at some point he's like, what am I doing? It's not what I grew up. It's not what I was educated. I miss home. It's not me. So, and this is, I'm just giving you examples that you will relate with what I'm saying. We get our values from our home. Sometimes we get bad values, by the way. But for the young parents of us, it just goes to show you how important it is the values in your home. And sometimes you do something and it seems like your kids don't really care, but they grow with that value. I read once a very nice slogan that our words, our words are the voice that our kids hear for the rest of their life in their mind. Our words. So if I repeat certain words all the time, this is what my kid will echo in their mind throughout their life. So the tablets, they represent the structure and the guidelines in my life. And when they break, then I don't go by the guidelines in my life. So I can say from age 16, 17 to the age 27, my guidelines of my life were broken. My life. I'm talking about me. So I went completely off the guidelines of the values that I got in my life. That at some point it bothered me. It wasn't me. It's not me. Now, if you want to look at it in the Kabbalistic angle, there are two midot that they represent that. These are the midot of Netzach and Hod. The Netzach represents the knowledge, the knowing of the situation, and the Hod represents the emotional part here. If these attributes are applied, then I have both the intellectual and the emotional part very balanced to know how to keep my guidelines. And if I don't have that, if this system is not operating the right way, the result will be that I will not be able to make any decision in my life. I will be very confused all the time. And the reality is that 90% of people are like that. Comes to a decision, they don't know what to choose. It can be a very simple decision: where to live, what to study, should I marry that person, what should I wear. They become very not stable, and they can't make decisions. Everything they are dependent. Oh my God, what should I do? It's a very simple decision. Just make a decision. No, I can't make a decision. Why? Because the system between the emotion and the intellect, what the Netzach and the Hod will balance it out, since I don't have my guidelines, then I don't know what to do. And we all find times in our life that I have this confusion. And I find myself in a place of inner chaos because I don't know what to decide. Should I do this? Should I do that? And now I think that it's in just maybe the situation around me. But it's just me not being focused and able to make the right decision. Many times in many of my lectures I say that the more you align your neshama, your soul with your body, you see things clear and you're able to make a quick decision. You go on a date, as you know, I know maybe it's not so applicable to most of you, but you go on a date, I'm saying that because it is applicable to a lot of us. You sit in front of the person, you don't know, is it the right person, it's not the right person. For the younger generation of my students, that's the messages I get. I went on a date, she's very cute, I like a lot of the character traits, but I don't know if she's the right one, and I don't know. That's why I always tell the people who go on dates, don't spend 3 hours in front of the mirror on makeup. Sit and read Tehillim. Refine yourself. Refine yourself spiritually, that when you get to the point, the decision is clear. And most of us don't have a clear decision in anything. You have 2 job opportunities, I don't know which one is best. People come to me, I don't know if to learn, should I learn to be a doctor, should I learn to be a lawyer, should I learn to be this, should I live in here, should I live there? And we constantly have these questions, and a big part of it is because we can't come to our own decision. Why? Because the tablets, the foundation of my life are broken. So, if I have that, then again, I'm gaining back this balance. I don't need to think too much. I don't need to lose sleep because I don't have a decision. What should I do? If I have this system that I know how to operate, my decisions can come quick. And I don't feel that after I made the decision, oh my gosh, I made the wrong decision, what's going to happen now? And I become neurotic about something that is irrelevant. Now, if I don't have this system, when it's time to make a decision, I'm confused. I don't know what to make. Then I have to call now 50 rabbis. And that's why I'm up till 5 o'clock in the morning, because I get these questions and I'm like, come on, why do you need to ask me this question? Not that I have a problem with answering questions, but I see the questions and people are like confused. They don't know what to decide. That's because the person is not stable. The tablets, the foundation, the core of my neshama is broken. So when I find myself in this situation, then it means that the tablets are broken, that there's no stability, that my foundation is shaken. So we talked about the walls. That's how you can recognize it. Now we're talking about the tablets where you can recognize. Now I don't know if we have much time to continue, but we still have the burning of the Sefer of the Torah, the placing the idol in the Heichal, and the stopping of the Korban HaTamid. So maybe we'll do it real quickly and not so thoroughly, but the burning of the Sefer of the Torah is my connection to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, my connection to the Torah. Burning is something, it's not damaging. You know, at the time of Hanukkah, the Greeks, they didn't care to destroy the Bet HaMikdash. They wanted to contaminate the oils. They didn't care of burning the oils. They opened all the jars and touched it to make the oil impure. That's one way of damaging. But Apostomos, he wanted to burn the Torah, to erase the memory. You burn something, it becomes ashes. You can't refurbish, you can't redo it, you can't clean it. Something that becomes impure, you can maybe make it pure or replace it. The point of the burning of the Sefer of the Torah is not to leave any existence. And in many things in the Torah, I resent. I might agree to many things in the Torah because it sits well in my mind, but many things in the Torah I resent and I don't want to do it. It's not me. And I will apply it that I will totally try to get it out, to eliminate it, to destroy it. And It doesn't mean that everybody has it. But if I can find something in the Torah that I'm doing anything in my power to burn it to ashes, then it means that the Sefer, the Torah, in me is burnt. And that can be in many things. I know many people that they'll agree with many things in the Torah, but when it comes to a certain thing, that I don't agree with. I don't agree with it, and I don't want to do it. Now, it's not that the person sits at home and says, you know, that I don't agree with, let me go against it. It's done in a very subconscious way.
Sometimes also a person's not ready to take something on.
That's a whole different thing. That's why I said that on today you have to meditate on these things. To see, it doesn't mean that you have it. When I asked why specifically the 17th of Tammuz we're taking this time to fast, because when you fast, you're spending less time in the kitchen. And if you spend less time in the kitchen, then your mouth is not moving 500 times today. That's to make your brain work a little bit. When the mouth moves, the brain doesn't work so well. So Hashem says, listen, close your mouth for a couple hours. You're going to be spending less time in the kitchen. And just think how much time I'm saving today from all the actions I would have done in the kitchen. That's for me to sit and meditate, to take an hour of my time. The fast is not for me to be tortured and to dream of the cup of coffee that I want. It's to take half an hour of my day, and to do what I just told you, to sit and say, wait a minute, is this hard for me to come to decisions? Yes. Maybe my tablets are broken. Is it hard for me to put myself in restrictions? Yes. Maybe my walls are broken. So, and that's why I said that first you have to go back to the concept of leaving Mitzrayim, because I have to break the yeshut, the existence in my ge'ava, to be able to say, yes, I have a problem with restrictions. Yes, I have a problem with guidelines. So, of course it doesn't mean that you have it, but you want to make an analogy. You want to see, you know, Karen said that the light of the oil went on today in the car. The system is warning you that you may be lacking oil. If you would be ignorant, you would say, I don't care about this red light, and I'm just going to continue driving, and the car would just explode at some point. But there's a red light, and oh, wait a minute, I'm missing oil. Let me take the car to the garage. Now, is it convenient in the middle of the day to take the car to the garage? No. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost time. I'm going to have to sit and wait there. But it's Yud Zayin B'Tammuz. It's a day to make an analogy. So Hashem says, listen, I'm going to put red lights on throughout the year, and it's for you to stop and make an analogy. Take the body to the garage. Does it mean that I have it? No. But I have to take it to the garage to look at it. So I have to make now an analogy. Do I have a problem with my boundaries? Yes, no. If the answer is no, great, move on. So of course it doesn't mean that everybody has it, and it doesn't mean, like you said, not everybody's ready. That's not the point. I know a lot of people are not ready. The only way for you to really make the right analogy, that's why I started with the concept of Mitzrayim, is if you move the pride away. If you have ge'ava, if you're coming to this analogy with ge'ava, with pride, of course, right away you'll be like, no, I'm Mr. Perfect. I don't need to fix anything. I can go and have a sandwich now. That's it. The fast is over. Because I'm Mr. Perfect. Everything is good. I'm number one. But if I want to make an analogy of my system, I have to take Mr. Ge'ava, put him away, and say, okay, you know, I'm actually not that great, and I'm failing here and here and here. And when it comes to see if my Sefer Torah is burnt, is I have to be honest and say, you know what? Who am I kidding? I hate this mitzvah. I don't want to do it. It's not convenient for me. Whether I believe in it or not, whether I accept it or not, I don't like it. Who are you kidding? That's how I do it. You think I like doing all the mitzvot? I might look very religious, but I'm like you. I'm a human being. There are certain mitzvot that are the same like every other person. I don't like doing. It's not convenient for me. It's not sits well with my daily agenda. And my Yetzer Hara is going to come with all the sophisticated ways to get me to convince myself that this mitzvah is not so important. Look how many great mitzvot I'm doing. This I can burn. This I can bring into ashes. It's not so important. Now, if you have a lot of pride, you'll never point to that mitzvah. You'll never find it. Because your pride is going to make you say, no, I keep Shabbat, and I eat kosher, and I do this, and I do that. This mitzvah, I always give the example, just that you understand what I'm talking about, that when I go on lectures, now I'm going next week to a tour of lectures. I have almost every day 2 or 3 lectures. Maybe a couple of the days is 1 lecture. So I'm from morning to night out, talking, lecturing, counseling, guiding, and I come home at 3 in the morning. That's the reality. The lecture starts, there's questions and answers, everybody catches me at the door, so I come home at 3 in the morning. And in most cases, especially now in the winter, when the lecture starts at 8, there's no time for Arvit, it's too early. So I have to pray after the lecture. Summer, I mean. Usually what I would do is I will make on purpose a minyan that at least I can pray Arvit before I leave the place. But sometimes the reality is that there isn't a minyan, or everybody prayed, and I will go home. I will come home, 3 o'clock in the morning. I have to be up already the next day at 6 or 7. So my Yetzirah will tell me, it's okay, you can go to sleep. You don't have to say Arvit. Just say Shema Yisrael and you're good to go. And of course, it's very tempting. 3 o'clock in the morning, who wants to stand now and pray Arvit? So my Yetzirah will tell me, listen, you just spent now 18 hours, you just stood, you taught, you inspired, you this, you that. It's okay, you can skip 1 night. It's fine. It's not so important. Look how many good mitzvot you're focusing on. The prayer is not so important. Just say Shema Yisrael, that's what you're obligated and just move on. Hold on if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
No problem.
So, and you know what? Sometimes the Yetzirah is so convincing that he would bring the Torah to ashes that I will come to the point and say, I'm up already from 7 in the morning. My whole day was involved in Torah and mitzvot and helping others. Really? If I skip this prayer right now, is that going to be the end of the world? So, that's how the Yetzirah operates in a way that he burns the Torah within me to a point that I don't recognize the value of it because it's ashes. And I'm able to push away a mitzvah and say, it's not that important, I'm doing the other 99 mitzvot. Now, to pinpoint and to be able to see where I'm doing that can only be done if I remove my pride and saying, let me go through the list. And when I'm real humble, I'm able to say, really? Who am I kidding? I am just lazy. I don't want to do this mitzvah. I'm pretending that it's not such an important mitzvah, or that it's rabbinical, or all sorts of other excuses. But really, who am I kidding? So there's much more to that. I just want to go through the other 2. But when I recognize in me that that's something that I do, and it doesn't mean you have to make a good analogy. Sometimes if you're not ready, then it means you're not ready. But if you're very humble, you're able to say, who am I kidding? I can fool everybody around me, but if I fool myself, then I'm shooting myself in the leg. Now, the other 2 things that happen is the bitul korban tamid, stopping the sacrifice that was twice a day. I don't want to go too much into it because we gave a whole class on Sunday in regards to this mitzvah. Go to the video and watch the mitzvah. It's the concept of of being persistent with things. And when I see that I don't have persistence with certain things that I do in my life, and I'm lacking that persistence, which will cause me slowly to start stepping backwards, then that's something that I need to fix. This is the concept of the bitul of the korban tamid, stopping the korban tamid. And one example out of many, and you can apply to your own personal life, is that a man is obligated in praying in a minyan. Most men, maybe that's something you don't know, like men don't know things about women don't know things about men. Most men don't like going to minyanim. Most men will do anything that they can to avoid the minyan. And unless there's good business partners in the shul, and a good chevre that they can sit and talk. You don't notice it because in the men's section everybody's talking and making business and lashon hara and making fun. That's the point for the minyan. It's not the prayer. So very few shuls, it's quiet there when you pray. Usually in shuls there's like a market. So most men don't like going to pray in a minyan, and it's a struggle. It's a big struggle for a man to go to a minyan. And you'll see a man that will go for a month, 2, 3, 4 months, very good. He will make it to the minyan every day, and then again, fall back, and going again and fall back. The concept of being persistent. The minyan, again, I'm saying it in a truthful way, praying every day, 3 times a day, the same text is not easy. It's repeating itself. And a lot of people, they get to a breaking point by saying, what am I doing here? I'm not praying from my heart. The concept of persistence is that you're doing it whether you agree with it or not, or whether you like it or not. It's the persistence that will eventually break the barrier. Like the story with Rabbi Akiva and the water, that eventually the water made a hole in the rock. So one should look in themselves and recognize, where am I breaking the pattern of persistence? And if I find that in me I'm breaking the persistence in many things that I do, again, I have to look into it today, and today is the right day to come to the balance. And the last thing that happened on Yud Zayin B'Tammuz was putting an idol in the Heichal, in the main chamber. And this is the concept that I started talking about before, is how we are slaves to many things. That we're placing an idol in the main room, in my main part of the day. The Heichal, the dome, is my main part of my life. And this is not much to go deep into it, is that I have to recognize what are the things that I idolize in my life. Idolize, not that I'm thinking they're so great, is that I'm dependent on, and they're a form of idol worship. I gave before a few examples. It can be a phone, can be Facebook, can be your job, can be a car, whatever it is. Something that that is controlling me. Something that idol worship, people imagine in the word idol worship, people bowing on the ground. But idol worship comes from the word in Hebrew, avodah zarah. Avodah zarah means a foreign work. Foreign means that it has nothing to do with me. How do I recognize something that is foreign to me? Because the Torah is what I'm supposed to do. Avodah means work. I have to serve Hashem. Whatever is me taking me away from serving Hashem is foreign. Anything that is not in the guidelines of serving Hashem is foreign to me. I have to make, again, the same analogy. What is foreign in my life? What is a form of idol worship? What is taking me away from my focus? And here you really have to move your pride away, because a lot of people, when I tell them, listen, I'm sorry to tell you, are addicted to Facebook. No, I come home from work, and after a long day I need to wind down. Okay, so wind down for 10 minutes. You don't have to wind down for 3 hours. So the first 10 minutes I'll give you a free pass. You're winding down. You just need to not concentrate or think of anything. Good. But that's valid for 10 minutes, not for 2 hours. So the rest of the hour and a half that you're on Facebook, that's because you're just addicted to the nonsense. Same thing with your phone. A lot of people tell me, listen, I need my smartphone. I emails and text messages and I check all sorts of things and I work. Good, that's fine. But when you're all day long on nonsense, when you cross the line of where it's work or needed, then you're already abusing the system. And that's when you can find yourself that you are addicted to it. When you're sitting, I don't want to say where, for 2 hours, and while you're there for 2 hours, no, I'm playing with a game. Sometimes when I knock on the bathroom door, hello, you're there already for an hour. No, I'm coming out in a second. What are you doing there for 2 hours? Oh, I'm playing a game. So, believe it or not, also the adults are playing the games for 2 hours. So, the point is that I have all these minor addictions in my life, and I also have severe addictions in my life. Can be cigarettes, can be alcohol, can be drugs, can be many other things that in our generation they call it an addiction, but really is me not being able to control my urges. In the Kabbalistic form of explaining it, this is called itkafia, that I don't know how to put my leg down and say, that's it. No, that's it. I had enough. Excuse me? What did I say?
Your leg.
Your leg? Okay, your foot down. I mean, the leg is more heavy. My foot is just
That's not the expression.
The point is, the point is that the Zohar explains that I was created for one thing, and that is called to do itkafia. Itkafia sitracha is to subdue the other side of holiness. And it will come and tempt me to do something, and I have to subdue it. Meaning, no, I put the wall down, I put my foot down. So, when it comes to this idol worship, if I see that there are certain things in my life that I don't know when to put a stop for it, if you are on Facebook more than 15 minutes, and I'm not insulting people that are on Facebook, I don't recommend to go there. I think it's really a time-consuming waste of time. But there are good things there too. I suggest you go put your good things, you spend 3-4 minutes, and that's it, and the story's over. But when you see that the posts are starting to repeat themselves, that's when you know, oh my gosh, I've been on Facebook for 3 hours. I got to get up from the chair because I just got glued to the chair. So I'm saying Facebook because this is applicable to most people in our generation, but it's with everything. You have to make an analogy today. What in my life I can cut tremendously that is taking too much of my time? And it can be many things. I just threw a few examples. You have to make yourself an analogy where in you is placed an idol in your main part of the day. And it can mean many things. I met now when I was in London a person that is very into health. They're literally neurotic, fanatic, and addicted to the whole health thing. Come on, relax, just eat a salad and move on. Their entire day, it was not in a healthy way. And I said, listen, I'm also very aware and acknowledge the importance of health. But all day long, I mean, that's already becoming neurotic. It's an addiction. It's a not healthy addiction. All day long. Okay, just eat some carrots and move on. You don't have to make a whole big thing out of it. So even in something that seems very good, can be an addiction and can be I mean, I don't like using the word of addiction. I would just use the word lack of control. Lack of able to say, okay, I had enough. I can work out for half an hour. There's nothing wrong with working out. You don't have to work out 5 hours. You're not going to be the next champion in the Olympics. So the point to take from that, to kind of summarize it real quick, is that this is a day of self-reflection. It's not necessarily the morning of what happened 2,000 and 3,000 years ago. Yes, that's the design of it, the title of it, the breaking of the walls, the stopping of the sacrifice, the burning of the Sefer Torah. This is the title. But since I want to look more in a deeper level, I want to look in the more inner part of it, then I have to take all these 5 categories, to take a half an hour out of my time. I know an hour sounds a lot, but you would spend about an hour in the kitchen and eating and preparing today. So it's not that you have to come up with that time. It's, making a cup of coffee takes, 4 minutes. Cutting a salad, 5 minutes. Making a sandwich, 7 minutes. Put all this together, you have about an hour that you're not doing anything today. And then sitting and eating, that's also about a good half an hour to 45 minutes. So you take an hour out of your time and you start psychoanalyzing your system. And you, first before you do that, you leave your ego out, you put your pride away, and you're saying, now I'm coming to make an assessment, I'm coming to make an analogy, because today is Veterans Day, with President's Day, with 4th of July, I have all the sales today. Hashem is saying, today when you do that, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you, to recognize it, and then I'm going to help you to overpower it, to overcome it. So you will be able to reach to this balance. And this balance, this is the serving of Hashem in completion. This is the goal. So it's a very auspicious day, not only for the morning side of it, but rather for the joyous side of it. And that's why I quoted a verse in Zechariah that he says that these days of mourning will become a day of celebration, because the only way of really refining myself is that I see the positive side of everything and not the negative side of everything. If I come to the challenge with a very negative attitude, I will never be able to achieve anything. This is looking at the empty part of the cup. But if I come to it with a very positive attitude, looking at the full side of the cup, that's when I'm able to achieve something positive. Now, if you're looking at the original date of Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, what happened? Happened something very bad. The golden calf and the breaking of the tablets. So I can look at it in a very negative way. But I can also look at it in a very positive way, because that's the day that Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the tablets. That's the day that Moshe Rabbeinu brought down the Shekhinah into the world. That's the day that the power, our essence, our life force was brought down to the world. And without these tablets, these tablets, even though they're broken, they're still in the ark. We don't know exactly where the ark is. One opinion says that it's buried deep down inside under Kodesh HaKodashim in Yerushalayim. And another opinion says that it's in the Vatican, stolen by Titus in the destruction of the Second Temple, that he took everything with him and took it to the Vatican. It's somewhere there in one of their basements. Very soon Mashiach is going to come. We're going to get back the ark, and in the ark is the tablets. The second set and the first set, the broken, the remainings. We're going to find in the ark many other things. There's also a jar with the man, and there's also the oil that the Moshe Rabbeinu did, and many other things we're going to get very soon. If these tablets, the broken tablets, would not exist right now in the world will not exist. It would be chaos here. They wouldn't even be able. We wouldn't even have the ability to do one mitzvah. We wouldn't be able even to perform one commandment. If these tablets would, if somehow, hypothetically, let's imagine that aliens came from Mars and took them, and these tablets would not be in this planet, we would not be able to do one mitzvah. Meaning the power for us to serve Hashem, it's broken now, we are in exile. But that's our power, that's our essence. So I can look at it at this day as a disaster, that the tablets were broken, and I should. But I should also look at the full part of the cup and look at the positive side. This is the day that Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountains with the tablets. And that's why the prophecy of Zechariah says that these 4 fasts are going to become a day of celebration. You know, when Mashiach is going to come, Yud Zayin B'Tammuz is going to be a party. We're not going to be fasting, we're going to have a festival. Same thing with Tisha B'Av. Same thing with Asara B'Tevet. So the point is that for me to reach the highest point in my life, for me to reach completion and to reach my goal, is only if I have a very positive attitude. To be able to look at the good things in it, like we mentioned before, that yes, there are a lot of bad or negative character traits, but if they're used the right way, they become positive. This concept is called in the Torah, Verov Koach B'Tvuot Shor. Meaning that the power of the bull can just ram things and destroy them. But if you take the power of the bull, it actually can do good. You can plow the land. So almost anything in this world, if you look at the negative side of it and you empower the negative, it will become destructive. But if you take that negative and you direct it to something positive, with a positive attitude, that negative will become a good thing. So we want to meditate on this day. We want to remember the negative things that happen to us, but not to focus on the negative. To focus on all these positive things that happen, and with that positive outlook, I'm able to refine all these things to bring myself to a much higher level. This is a very auspicious day to meditate on these things. Hashem tells us that this is an auspicious time to achieve it. All I need to do is to make an analogy and to take the right decision and say, okay, I'm lacking here, I'm going to add here. Here I'm not doing so great, I'm going to add there. This is a very, very auspicious time. And once you reach these decisions, Bezrat Hashem, the fast will be over. Mashiach will be here before we even know it. Then fast can be stopped any minute. And if each and every one of us will come to these decisions on this auspicious time of this self-refinement, we do have a great chance that Mashiach will come before the end of the fast. So all is left is to wish you all a successful journey and a very successful and enlightening analogy of the day, to see what I need to do and achieve, and to do it in the most positive and loving way. And Bezrat Hashem, even if Chas v'Shalom Mashiach will decide not to come today, then every day that I will meditate and operate in what I told you, that is going to be what's going to hasten the redemption. And Bezrat Hashem, before we know it, the walls of Yerushalayim will be rebuilt very soon, and we'll see the building of the third Beit HaMikdash. The Korban HaTamid will come back to action twice a day, and all these things that we're commemorating the destruction and what happened will be regained back to our lives. Bezrat Hashem, with our positive attitude, positive outlook, and positive acts, this is going to happen very, very soon.